Imagine two people walking into the same job interview, same qualifications, same experience, same portfolio, but the moment they start speaking, something shifts. One of them sounds like what the interviewer unconsciously expects. The other doesn't. And before either of them sits down, the decision has already started to form in someone's mind. Not because of what they said, but because of how they said it. We like to believe we live in a meritocracy, that what matters most is what you know, what you can do, what you've achieved. But in reality, the way you speak, your accent, your vocabulary, your tone can open doors or quietly close them, often without anyone realizing it. Today, we're diving into what Pierre Bourdieu called linguistic capital, how it works in the fast-moving, shape-shifting world Zygmunt Bauman described as liquid modernity, and most importantly, how you can navigate a world where your voice isn't just sound, it's currency. Bourdieu's idea was simple but powerful. Language is not neutral. It's loaded with social value. Just like money, education, or connections, the way you speak can be a form of capital, something that can be invested, exchanged, and used to gain advantages in certain social spaces. If your accent, grammar, and choice of words match the standard expected by powerful institutions, schools, companies, media, you're spending a currency that others instantly recognize as valuable. But if your way of speaking falls outside that standard, you might be speaking perfect truth, but to the wrong ears, it won't sound like it. Now, here's where Bauman's liquid modernity enters the picture. Bauman argued that we live in a world where things change faster than we can solidify them. Jobs appear and disappear. Technologies evolve overnight. Social norms shift before we've even adjusted to the last change. In this fluid world, the old rules of language prestige still matter, but they're less stable. A voice that wins you trust in one context might cost you credibility in another. Let me share something I've actually seen happen. A close friend of mine, let's call him Daniel, grew up in a small town, speaking with a strong regional accent. He was brilliant, hard-working, and when he moved to a major city for university, he quickly realized something. People reacted differently when he spoke. Not rudely, not aggressively, just differently. Some professors seemed to take him less seriously. Classmates occasionally corrected his word choice mid-sentence, and when he went for internships, he was often told he was a great candidate, but somehow the call never came. Daniel started to do what's called code switching, adjusting his accent and vocabulary depending on who he was speaking to. In certain settings, he sounded almost like a different person. It wasn't about pretending to be someone else. It was about survival, about making sure his voice didn't get in the way of his ideas. It worked. He landed a job in a competitive field, but here's the twist. He told me that sometimes, even with his success, he felt like his real voice had been locked away in a drawer. That's the emotional cost of linguistic bias. You might think, okay, but that's just how the world works. People adapt, problem solved. But here's the thing. In Bauman's liquid modernity, the rules keep changing. 1 year, sounding corporate is the ticket to credibility. The next year, companies want you to be authentic and celebrate your uniqueness. This constant shifting means that the value of your linguistic capital isn't fixed, it's volatile. The same accent that limits you in one room could make you stand out in another. The same style of speech that feels out of place today could become a trend tomorrow. In a sense, our voices are living assets. They gain and lose value depending on context. And that's why awareness is your best tool. You can't control every bias you'll face, but you can learn how to read the room, adapt when you choose to, and protect your sense of self in the process. Before we get into practical steps, there are 3 truths we need to face head-on. Linguistic bias is often invisible, even to those who practice it. Most people aren't consciously thinking, I don't like this person's accent. It happens subconsciously, shaped by years of cultural conditioning. Bias doesn't always work in one direction. In some environments, sounding too polished can be seen as arrogant. In others, sounding too casual can make you seem unprofessional. It's all about the social rules of the space you're in. You can adapt without erasing yourself. Adjusting your speech doesn't have to mean abandoning your identity. It can be a strategic choice, not a surrender. The first step is to notice, not to obsess, not to overthink, just to observe how people react to different ways of speaking. Start paying attention in meetings, interviews, even casual conversations. Which voices get listened to? Which get interrupted? Which get invited back? This awareness will help you map the linguistic rules of different spaces. And once you see the patterns, you can decide how, or if, you want to play by them. Think of your voice like a toolbox. You're not replacing your accent or personality. You're adding range. Practice speaking in slightly different registers. Record yourself. Experiment with pacing, tone, and vocabulary. The goal is not to sound like someone else. It's to expand your ability to adapt, just like you'd wear different clothes for a wedding. And for a hike, you can wear different versions of your voice for different situations. That's not inauthentic. It's skilled communication. Finally, don't lose the voice that feels like home. In a world where we're constantly adjusting to fit in, it's easy to forget that your natural way of speaking is part of your story. Make space for it. Use it with friends, family, and communities where it's valued. Your voice doesn't have to be a single fixed sound. It can be a spectrum, and all of it belongs to you. Owning your voice in a world full of shifting expectations is not about perfecting your pronunciation or memorizing the right vocabulary. It's about understanding the power dynamics at play and choosing consciously how you want to navigate them. Bourdieu showed us that language is currency, and like any currency, it can be saved, spent, or invested. Bauman reminded us that in liquid modernity, the value of that currency can change without warning. The accent that holds you back in one room might make you unforgettable in another. But here's the key. The goal isn't to please everyone. It's to carry your voice with enough flexibility that you can adapt when it serves you, and enough grounding that you never lose sight of where it came from. Think about it. Your voice is a fingerprint made of sound. It holds the places you've been, the people who shaped you, the languages and rhythms that surrounded you growing up. When you change it slightly to connect with someone new, you're not betraying it. You're adding layers. The challenge is knowing when you're making a choice and when you're being pushed, and that's where awareness changes everything. If you know the bias exists, you're no longer at its mercy. You can decide when to lean into expectations, when to push back, and when to let your true voice take center stage. In a sense, this is about reclaiming agency, about refusing to let someone else's subconscious reaction define your worth. You are not less intelligent because you sound different. You are not less professional because your rhythm, intonation, or vocabulary doesn't match some artificial standard. Those are just surface-level judgments, and surface-level judgments say more about the listener than about you. Still, we can't pretend the bias disappears if we ignore it. The doors it closes are real. That's why flexibility is power. If you can shift gears without losing yourself, you can walk into spaces where the rules are stacked against you and still get heard. Here's the takeaway I want you to remember. Your voice is a tool, not a trap. You can shape it without erasing it. Awareness beats paranoia. Noticing bias helps you respond strategically. Authenticity has range. You can be true to yourself in more than one register. We live in a liquid world where the right way to speak can change faster than you can adapt. That's exhausting, but it's also an opportunity, because in fluid environments, the people who can flow without losing their shape are the ones who thrive.